Mary lived in a small town where everyone knew everyone. She worked at the local library, surrounded by stories of daring heroes and incredible feats. But Mary wasn't a hero in a book. She was just Mary. She loved her quiet life, her comfy sweaters, and most of all, she loved karate. 3 nights a week, after shelving books and helping kids find their favorite stories, Mary traded her sweater for a GI. The dojo was her sanctuary. It wasn't about becoming a super fighter. It was about discipline, focus, and finding strength within. Master Ito, her sensei, had taught her that true power came from the heart, not just the muscles. Mary wasn't flashy. She didn't have the perfect form or the most aggressive stance. But she had heart, and she had dedication. For years, she'd practiced tirelessly, perfecting her katas and sparring with her fellow students. Now, an announcement caught her eye: the annual local karate championship. A wave of nervousness washed over her, but a spark of excitement flickered within. Could she, Mary from the library, actually compete? The championship poster stared back at her. A fierce-looking karateka in mid-air, a blur of motion and power. It seemed a world away from her quiet corner of the library. But the idea had taken root. Mary imagined herself standing on the mat, the lights shining down, the crowd watching. The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. She talked to Master Ito after class that night. He listened patiently, his eyes twinkling behind his glasses. "Mary-san," he said, using the honorific, "the true test of karate is not just in the dojo, but in how you face challenges in life." He didn't push her, but he didn't discourage her either. He simply reminded her of the discipline and perseverance she already possessed. That night, Mary lay awake, her mind racing. The doubts swirled. She wasn't strong enough, fast enough, experienced enough. But then she remembered Master Ito's words, and the feeling of power she found in each perfectly executed kata. With a deep breath, she made her decision. She would enter the championship. The day of the championship arrived, crisp and clear. Mary felt a knot of anxiety tighten in her stomach as she drove to the community center. She wore her cleanest GI, freshly pressed, but it felt stiff and unfamiliar outside the dojo. Walking into the gymnasium was like stepping into a different world. The air buzzed with energy. Competitors stretched and practiced their forms, their movements sharp and precise. The sound of shouts and the thud of fists on padded targets filled the air. Mary felt small and out of place. She found a seat in the bleachers and watched the other competitors. They were younger, more muscular, and oozed confidence. Some performed elaborate warm-up routines, while others chatted and laughed, seemingly without a care in the world. Mary clutched her GI bag, her knuckles white. She wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake. Maybe she should just turn around and go back to the quiet sanctuary of the library. But then, she remembered her promise to herself. She was here to face her fears, to test her limits. She took a deep breath and stood up, ready or not. It was time. As Mary walked toward the registration table, she couldn't shake the feeling that all eyes were on her. Not in a supportive way, but with a mixture of amusement and disdain. A group of teenage karatekas, all sporting matching team jackets, snickered as she passed. One of them whispered something to another, and they both burst into laughter. Mary tried to ignore them, but the words stung. She heard snippets of their conversation. "Look at her GI, so old-fashioned," and "She looks like she belongs in a library, not a karate tournament." Another competitor, a young man with a black belt and an arrogant smirk, bumped into her on purpose. "Oops, sorry," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Didn't see you there." Even some of the parents in the audience seemed to be whispering and pointing. Mary felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. She knew she didn't look like the typical karate champion. She wasn't young and athletic. She was just Mary, the librarian. But she was also a dedicated student of karate, and she wouldn't let their mockery deter her. She straightened her shoulders, held her head high, and walked towards the registration table, determined to prove them all wrong. Mary's name was called for her first match. Her opponent was none other than the arrogant young man who had bumped into her earlier. His name was Jake, and he was known for his flashy techniques and aggressive style. As he stepped onto the mat, he gave Mary a condescending smirk. Jake began to showboat, performing a series of high kicks and spinning moves, clearly trying to intimidate her. The crowd cheered, impressed by his athleticism. Mary remained calm, focusing on her breathing and centering herself. She remembered Master Ito's words, "Observe your opponent, find their weakness, and use it against them." The referee signaled the start of the match. Jake immediately charged at Mary, launching a flurry of punches and kicks. Mary, caught off guard by his speed, stumbled backward, barely managing to block some of the blows. The crowd roared with laughter, clearly enjoying Mary's apparent disadvantage. Jake, emboldened by their reaction, continued his relentless assault, confident that victory was within his grasp. Mary knew she had to do something, and fast. Mary stumbled again, nearly losing her balance. Jake capitalized on this, landing a solid kick to her side. A collective "ooh" rippled through the crowd, followed by more laughter. Mary could feel the heat of embarrassment rising in her cheeks. She looked clumsy and awkward, a stark contrast to Jake's graceful movements. She was definitely being outmatched. Jake was faster, stronger, and more experienced in competition. Mary's blocks were slow, her stances shaky. It seemed like everyone was right. She didn't belong here. She was just a librarian, not a karate champion. Doubt began to creep into her mind. Maybe she should just give up, admit defeat, and save herself from further humiliation. But then, a memory flashed through her mind. Master Ito's dojo, the smell of sweat and wood, the countless hours of practice. She remembered the feeling of pushing past her limits, the satisfaction of mastering a difficult technique. And she remembered Master Ito's unwavering belief in her. She couldn't give up. Not now. Not ever. She had to find a way to fight back. The memory dissolved, replaced by the present. Jake was still attacking, his movements relentless. But something had shifted within Mary. The fear hadn't completely disappeared, but it was now mixed with a steely resolve. Flashback. Years ago, Mary had been a shy and timid woman. She started karate not to become a fighter, but to gain confidence. Master Ito, a small, unassuming man with a gentle smile, had seen something in her. He pushed her, but always with kindness and patience. "Karate is not just about physical strength, Mary-san," he would say. "It is about mental discipline, about finding your inner strength. Your greatest weapon is not your fist, but your mind." He taught her to focus, to breathe, to find her center. He taught her that even the smallest person can overcome the greatest obstacle with the right mindset. One day, she was struggling with a particularly difficult kata. Frustration welled up inside her, and she wanted to quit. Master Ito stopped her. "The pain you feel is temporary," he said, "but the victory will last forever. Never give up on yourself, Mary-san. You are stronger than you think." End flashback. Back in the present, Mary saw Jake's next attack coming. He was telegraphing his moves, relying on his speed and power, but neglecting his defense. He was so focused on winning quickly and impressing the crowd that he had become predictable. Remembering Master Ito's teachings, Mary didn't try to match Jake's power. Instead, she used his momentum against him. As he lunged forward with a kick, Mary sidestepped, using a technique she had practiced countless times in the dojo. It wasn't flashy, but it was effective. Jake's kick missed, and he stumbled, momentarily off balance. This was Mary's chance. She quickly stepped in, delivering a swift and precise strike to his exposed side. It wasn't a knockout blow, but it was enough to disrupt his rhythm and throw him off his game. The crowd, which had been laughing moments before, fell silent, surprised by Mary's unexpected move. Jake, visibly shaken, backed away, his arrogant smirk replaced by a look of confusion. Mary had finally found her footing. The match had just begun. Mary began to move with a newfound confidence. She didn't try to overpower Jake, but instead focused on deflecting his attacks and creating openings. She used her knowledge of pressure points and joint locks, techniques that Master Ito had emphasized, to subtly weaken him. Jake, frustrated by his inability to land a solid blow, grew increasingly reckless. He abandoned his form, relying solely on his raw power. Mary anticipated his moves, effortlessly dodging his wild swings and responding with quick, precise strikes. She might not have been the strongest or the fastest, but she was smart. She used a sweeping leg technique, another lesson from Master Ito, to knock Jake off balance again. As he stumbled, she followed up with a focused strike to his shoulder, momentarily numbing his arm. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the underdog, the simple librarian, began to dominate the match. Mary was no longer just defending. She was attacking strategically and effectively. The tide had turned. The silence in the gymnasium was palpable. The few murmurs that arose were filled with disbelief. "Did you see that?" one person whispered. "She's actually good." Mary pressed her advantage. She moved with a surprising agility, her steps light and precise. She anticipated Jake's every move, deflecting his attacks with ease. She didn't just block. She redirected his energy, turning his strength against him. Jake, panicking, tried to regain control, but Mary was one step ahead. She used a series of quick, unexpected strikes, targeting his pressure points with pinpoint accuracy. Each strike was small, but they added up, slowly draining his strength and confidence. Finally, with a perfectly timed block and a swift counterattack, Mary managed to knock Jake to the ground. He lay there, stunned and defeated. The referee stepped in, signaling the end of the match. "Winner," he announced. "Mary." A wave of surprised applause rippled through the crowd. Mary had done it. She had won. Mary bowed respectfully to Jake, who still looked dazed. He managed a weak nod in return, a flicker of grudging respect in his eyes. As she walked off the mat, the applause grew louder. Even the teenagers who had mocked her earlier were clapping, albeit with a sheepish look on their faces. Master Ito was waiting for her at the edge of the arena, a proud smile on his face. "Well done, Mary-san," he said, his eyes twinkling. "You showed them the true meaning of karate." Mary blushed, still trying to process what had just happened. "I just remembered what you taught me, sensei," she said humbly. "To use my mind and my heart." News of Mary's victory spread quickly through the gymnasium. Competitors who had dismissed her before now looked at her with a newfound respect. Some even approached her, offering words of encouragement and congratulations. Mary had not only won a match, she had won over the crowd. She was no longer just Mary, the librarian. She was Mary, the karateka, and she was just getting started. The tournament progressed, and Mary found herself advancing further than anyone, including herself, had imagined. Each match presented a new challenge, a different style of fighting, a fresh test of her skills and her spirit. Her second opponent was a tall, lanky girl named Sarah, who specialized in long-range kicks. Mary had to adapt her strategy, staying close and disrupting Sarah's reach. It was a grueling match, but Mary's persistence paid off, and she won by a narrow margin. Her third opponent was a seasoned competitor known for his powerful punches. Mary had to rely on her agility and footwork to evade his attacks, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. She won that match too, surprising everyone with her stamina and determination. With each victory, Mary's confidence grew. She was no longer just fighting to prove others wrong. She was fighting for herself, for the joy of the competition, for the thrill of pushing her limits. The mocking had ceased completely, replaced by a quiet admiration. Mary, the simple librarian, was on a winning streak, and the final round was within reach. Between matches, Mary focused on resting and rehydrating. She replayed each fight in her mind, analyzing her strengths and weaknesses. She spoke briefly with Master Ito, who offered words of encouragement and subtle adjustments to her strategy. But mostly, she relied on her own inner strength, the quiet determination that had carried her this far. She noticed a change in the other competitors. They no longer saw her as a joke, but as a serious contender. Some even asked her for advice, curious about her unconventional techniques and her calm demeanor. Mary, in turn, offered them words of encouragement, sharing what she had learned from Master Ito. She realized that karate wasn't just about fighting. It was about respect, discipline, and camaraderie. It was about pushing yourself to be the best version of yourself, both on and off the mat. And she, Mary, the simple librarian, was finally finding her place in this world of fierce competitors and unwavering dedication. The final match awaited. Her opponent in the final round was Kenji, the reigning champion. He was a formidable figure, tall and muscular, with a reputation for his lightning-fast strikes and unwavering focus. He had won the championship for the past 3 years, and everyone expected him to win again. As Mary and Kenji stood facing each other on the mat, the tension in the gymnasium was thick enough to cut with a knife. The crowd was hushed, their eyes glued to the two competitors. Mary felt a surge of adrenaline, but she also felt a sense of calm. She had come this far, faced her fears, and proven herself. Win or lose, she was proud of what she had accomplished. Kenji bowed respectfully to Mary, and she returned the gesture. Despite the intensity of the competition, there was a sense of mutual respect between them. They were both warriors, dedicated to the art of karate. The referee signaled the start of the match. The final battle had begun. Kenji immediately launched a series of rapid-fire punches and kicks, testing Mary's defenses. She blocked and dodged with a surprising speed, her movements fluid and graceful. She didn't try to overpower him, but instead used his momentum against him, redirecting his attacks with subtle shifts of her body. The match was a whirlwind of motion, a dance of skill and strategy. Kenji's strikes were powerful, but Mary's defenses were impenetrable. She anticipated his every move, countering with quick, precise attacks that kept him off balance. The crowd watched in captivated silence, mesmerized by the skill and determination of both competitors. They knew they were witnessing something special, a clash between two worthy opponents, each giving their all. Mary felt her muscles burning, her breath coming in ragged gasps. But she refused to give up. She focused on her breathing, on her center, on the teachings of Master Ito. She had come this far, and she wouldn't back down now. She was ready to fight until the very end. The championship was within her grasp. The final minutes of the match were a blur. Both Mary and Kenji were pushing themselves to their absolute limits, their movements a testament to years of dedication and discipline. Kenji landed a powerful kick to Mary's chest, sending her stumbling backward. The crowd gasped, thinking she was defeated. But Mary refused to fall. She steadied herself, her eyes locked on Kenji. She knew she couldn't match his strength, but she could match his spirit. She could match his determination. She remembered Master Ito's final lesson, given just before she left for the championship. The true strength of a warrior is not in their muscles, but in their heart. Never give up, Mary-san. Believe in yourself even when no one else does. Those words echoed in her mind, filling her with a renewed sense of purpose. She closed her eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and found her center. She was ready. This was it, her final chance. She opened her eyes, and with a surge of energy, she launched her attack. She moved with a speed and precision she didn't know she possessed, her body a blur of motion. She feinted left, then darted right, confusing Kenji and creating an opening. She launched a series of quick strikes, targeting his pressure points with pinpoint accuracy. Kenji, caught off guard by her sudden burst of energy, struggled to defend himself. He blocked some of the blows, but others landed, disrupting his rhythm and throwing him off balance. Finally, Mary saw her chance. Kenji was momentarily exposed, his guard down. With a surge of adrenaline, she executed a perfectly timed spinning heel kick, a technique she had practiced countless times in the dojo. The kick connected with Kenji's head, sending him crashing to the mat. He lay there motionless, stunned and defeated. The gymnasium erupted in thunderous applause. The crowd was on its feet, cheering and applauding Mary's incredible victory. She had done it. She had won the championship. She, Mary, the simple librarian, had become a karate champion. Mary stood over Kenji, her chest heaving, her body aching. She offered him a hand, and he gratefully accepted it, pulling himself up. He bowed to her, a genuine expression of respect on his face. "You fought well," he said, his voice hoarse. "You deserved to win." Mary bowed in return. "Thank you, Kenji-san," she said. "You are a worthy champion." The referee raised Mary's hand in victory, and the applause reached a deafening crescendo. Confetti rained down from the ceiling, and the crowd surged forward, eager to congratulate her. Master Ito rushed onto the mat, his eyes shining with pride. He embraced Mary tightly. "I knew you could do it, Mary-san," he said. "You are a true warrior." Mary smiled, tears streaming down her face. She had faced her fears, overcome her doubts, and achieved the impossible. She had proven that anyone, regardless of their background or appearance, could achieve their dreams with hard work, dedication, and a belief in themselves. She was Mary, the karate champion, and her journey had just begun. In the days that followed, Mary's life changed in unexpected ways. She was interviewed by the local newspaper, and her story inspired people from all walks of life. She received letters and emails from people who had been struggling with their own challenges, telling her how her victory had given them hope. She even received a call from a prestigious karate school in the city, offering her a scholarship to train with some of the best martial artists in the world. It was an incredible opportunity, but Mary hesitated. She loved her quiet life at the library, her comfy sweaters, and her small-town community. She talked to Master Ito about her dilemma. He smiled knowingly. "Mary-san," he said, "you have a gift. You have the power to inspire others. But you must choose your own path. Follow your heart, and you will never go wrong." Mary thought long and hard about what she wanted to do. She realized that her true passion was not just for karate, but for sharing her knowledge and inspiring others to believe in themselves. And she knew that she could do that best right where she was, in her own community. Mary returned to her job at the library, but things were different now. Children who had once struggled to find books were now eager to learn from Mary, the karate champion. She started a small karate class at the community center, teaching children not just self-defense, but also respect, discipline, and self-confidence. She used her own story to inspire them, telling them how she had been mocked and underestimated, but how she had never given up on her dreams. She taught them that true strength came from within, from believing in themselves, even when no one else did. Master Ito often visited her class, watching with pride as Mary shared her knowledge and her passion with the next generation. He knew that she had found her true calling, not just as a karateka, but as a teacher and a role model. Mary, the simple librarian, had become a beacon of hope and inspiration in her community, proving that anyone, regardless of their background or appearance, could achieve greatness with hard work, dedication, and a belief in themselves. And she was just getting started. Mary stood on the mat, the championship trophy gleaming in her hands. She looked out at the crowd, their faces filled with admiration and respect. She smiled, a genuine smile that radiated warmth and gratitude. She stepped forward to address the audience, her voice clear and strong. "I want to thank everyone for their support," she said. "I know I didn't look like a champion when I first walked in here today, but I learned that it's not about how you look, it's about what's inside." She paused, her eyes meeting those of Master Ito. "I want to thank my sensei, Master Ito, for teaching me not just karate, but the importance of discipline, respect, and believing in myself." She then turned to Kenji, who stood beside her. "And I want to thank Kenji-san for being such a worthy opponent. You pushed me to be my best, and I have learned so much from you." Her words were humble and gracious, reflecting the true spirit of karate. She was a champion not just in skill but in character, and her victory was a testament to the power of the human spirit. The crowd erupted in applause, their cheers echoing through the gymnasium. They were celebrating not just a victory, but a transformation. They had witnessed Mary, the simple librarian, overcome her doubts and fears, silencing her critics and achieving the impossible. They had seen her display not only incredible skill and determination, but also humility, grace, and respect. She was a true champion, both on and off the mat. As the applause subsided, Mary raised the trophy high above her head, a symbol of her hard work, her dedication, and her unwavering belief in herself. She knew that this was just the beginning. She had found her purpose, her calling, and she was ready to share it with the world. She looked out at the crowd one last time, her heart filled with gratitude. And in that moment, she knew that she had truly won. Not just a championship, but the respect and admiration of her community. She was Mary, the karate champion, and she had finally found her voice. The cheers continued. Years passed, and Mary continued to teach karate at the community center, inspiring countless children to believe in themselves and achieve their dreams. She remained a librarian, surrounded by stories of heroes and heroines, but now she was a hero in her own right. She never forgot the karate championship, the challenges she had faced, and the lessons she had learned. She used those experiences to guide her students, teaching them not just how to fight, but how to overcome adversity, how to find their inner strength, and how to be true to themselves. One day, a young girl approached Mary after class, her eyes shining with admiration. "Mary-sensei," she said, "I want to be just like you when I grow up." Mary smiled, her heart filled with joy. She knew that she had made a difference, that she had inspired a new generation of warriors, not just on the mat, but in life. And she knew that her journey was far from over. The legacy of Mary, the karate champion, would continue to inspire for years to come. Mary often reflected on her journey, from the shy librarian who doubted herself to the karate champion who inspired a community. She realized that the championship trophy wasn't just a symbol of her victory, but a reminder of the power of the human spirit, the ability to overcome any obstacle with hard work, dedication, and a belief in oneself. She continued to train, not for competition, but for the joy of it, for the discipline it instilled, and for the connection it fostered with her students. She still wore her comfy sweaters, and she still loved her quiet life at the library. But now, she also embraced her role as a teacher, a mentor, and a role model. And every time she saw a young person struggling with doubt or fear, she would share her story, reminding them that they, too, had the power within them to achieve their dreams. For Mary knew that the greatest victory of all was not just winning a championship, but inspiring others to believe in themselves. And that was a victory she would continue to strive for every single day. The sun streamed through the windows of the community center, illuminating the faces of Mary's students as they practiced their katas. Their movements were precise and focused, reflecting the discipline and dedication that Mary had instilled in them. Mary watched them with pride, her heart swelling with joy. She saw in them not just karate students, but future leaders, innovators, and changemakers. She knew that they would face challenges in their lives, but she also knew that they had the strength within them to overcome anything. She stepped forward, clapping her hands to get their attention. "All right, everyone," she said, her voice warm and encouraging. "Let's finish with some sparring exercises. Remember to focus on your breathing, find your center, and believe in yourselves." The students nodded, their eyes filled with determination. They knew that Mary believed in them, and that was all that mattered. They were ready to face any challenge, knowing that they had the strength of a champion within them. Just like Mary, the practice continued. As the students paired off for sparring, Mary noticed a young boy named David standing hesitantly on the sidelines. He was small and shy, and he looked intimidated by the other students. Mary approached him, her voice gentle. "David, what's wrong?" she asked. David looked down at his feet. "I'm scared," he whispered. "I don't think I'm strong enough." Mary smiled, remembering her own doubts and fears before the karate championship. She knelt down beside him, her eyes meeting his. "David," she said, "strength isn't just about muscles. It's about believing in yourself, even when it's hard. It's about never giving up, even when you feel like you're losing. You are stronger than you think, David. I know you can do this." David looked at Mary, his eyes